knows even why some houses are called haunted.
What would you call this place?
Well, diseased, sick, crazy. Such houses are described in the Bible as lepers. Before that, a homeless race for the underworld. A house of demons.
Hello, everybody. This is Irene from the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK radio network. Now, tonight I haven't got Mark with me because he's rather busy, but I've got one of the co-hosts off of our network, Philip Kinsella from Twin Souls.
Hello, Irene. Delighted to be on board. Thank you.
Yeah, I hear your show's going pretty good on the network, Philip.
Yeah, I hope so, yes. Well, all of them are doing very well. That's the main thing. Getting the information out there, that's important.
Yes, it is. And also for people that are listening or anybody that wants a radio show, wants to be taught how to do an internet radio show, or wants to bring their radio show to us on Air Network, you're welcome. Just contact us at info@paukradio.com. Okay, Philip, tonight we have a guest with us, and it's Alan. Alan, how do you pronounce your surname? Is it Stivelman?
Yeah, it's the American way to pronounce, or the English version, it's Stivelman. Yes, it's okay. But in Argentina we say Stivelman, but it's the same way.
Okay. So, what about in Spain? You say Stivelman?
Yep. No, it's Stivel. I don't know. Probably here they call me. It's quite special because it's not a common Spanish name, so it's pronounced by different ways depending on the city that I am. Now I'm in the south of Spain. I'm in Seville.
Yeah. You're in Seville. Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely lovely. Right, Alan, you're an independent filmmaker. You make documentaries, and your they mainly premiere in the Latin American countries, don't they?
My last movie, or?
Yeah.
My last movie, it was presented on only cinemas, and tomorrow, October 22nd, will be released worldwide.
Okay, now I'm getting muddled up. The one you done, the first one you done was Humano.
Humano, yeah, Humano was my first movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a quite good experience. I was on Peru for 6 months. Recording a journey, a very personal journey that I made with a shaman from the Andes.
Yeah, you know that I'd like to see that actually, because did you have 200 questions or something you had to ask him?
Yeah, literally it was 200 questions.
Yeah,
mainly about existential questions about life, about death, why are we here? So I spent 6 months with him, and I got answers about the Andean worldview. Yeah. And one of the things that I learned is that for them, we are not human beings, or we cannot be considered as human beings until we get some consciousness about what is to be human. So it's the first step to be human is to have a conscious, to be awake, something similar to be awake.
Yeah, that's true. And that actual film was seen by over 3 million people. I understand.
Yeah, quite popular.
Yeah, I've got to ask. I have to ask because people will want to know. Did he manage to answer all the questions?
No. But from the 200 questions, I got 5 questions that was answered, but they were the most important questions for me. Because in the beginning of this project, I went to the Andes in order to find evidence of a lost civilization. Yeah. And I was trying to seek those evidence on the Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca is shared between Peru and Bolivia, and below that lake there is an ancient structures that it will prove my idea that they were an ancient culture that was settled in America more than 20,000 years ago. So that's the main reason for my trip. When I went there, I met this shaman, and what he told me was something like, if I want to learn about humanity, first I need to be human. And that was his sentence. And I said to him, like, what do you mean by to be human? I'm not a human being. And he said, no. And I started to ask him what does he mean about to be human being. And he started to share his knowledge from the Andes, and to explain to me that all the ancient temple had a purpose in order to. They are not like temples like Western people have for prayer. Yeah. They were actually for doing stuff, for making rituals in order to break barriers of our consciousness, to understand what is to be human being. So that's the reason why I discard all my questions about this lost civilization, and I just focus to understand the meaning of to be human being. And I spent 6 months all over the Andes. I was part of ancient rituals. It was a big challenge, but I was 24 years old. I had plenty of time to be there, and the result of this journey became a movie, and also it was on Netflix for 2 years. It was a big hit, and now it's available for free on YouTube.
It is. Oh,
yes.
Well, that's one I'm going to watch then. And it's spelled Humano, Humano, but it's pronounced Mano.
Exactly, it's human, but in Spanish, humano or humano. It's the way that you can pronounce in English.
Okay, so for anyone looking for that on YouTube, is it still on Netflix?
No, it's not in Netflix anymore. That's why I release it on YouTube.
Okay, so just put in the search bar on YouTube, Humano, Humano, by Alan Stivelman, Stivelman.
Thank you.
Okay, right, we've got that sorted out now. Right, now I'm not going to ask you, because you've done plenty of radio shows lately, so I will ask you actually, how did you actually get into this? If you could just give us a quick rundown on how you actually started making films. What led you to it?
Well, I had to tell you that when I saw a movie from Alexander Jodorowsky when I was 15 years old, I saw El Topo. It's a surrealist movie. And after that I watched it, I did not understand anything, but what I felt in my body was something unique. And I said to myself that I want to make films in order to share messages to people, and they like feel the same things that I felt when I was watching this movie. And that was the first step that I took, because by that time I was studying computer science, and then I quit and I jumped into film arts. Yeah. And my first movie was Humano, and I was new in documentaries. I never studied documentaries. I always thought that I was going to make fictions rather than documentaries, but my two featured movies are actually documentaries, and probably my third one, it will be also a documentary, because I want to finish research that I'm doing, and then after that I will probably hopefully I'm going to make some fictions too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's a shame Mark's not here tonight because Mark comes from a film background as well. And he would have loved to have talked to you about that. All right. So now getting to this documentary that's due to be released tomorrow. Where is it being released?
Will be released on most of the transactional platforms such as iTunes, Amazon, Google, Vimeo on Demand, PlayStation, etc.
Okay, I'm quickly jotting that down for the advertisement tomorrow for the show, where people can go and see it. And it's called Witness to Another World.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so both myself and Philip have seen this film this week, and we were absolutely blown over by it, especially Philip. Is that right, Philip?
Yeah, I've got to say, Alan, that when I finished watching your film, I was emotionally moved because we know it's about a contactee or an experiencer, one. And this happened in Argentina in 1978 when the young boy was 12, I believe.
Yes, he was 12 at that time, and he saw something that it was quite big for him, and he was dealing with let's say, he got traumatized after this event, and he had this thing for more than 4 decades, and I met Juan when he was 45, and we started to make this project when he was 52. So 4 years after, I was able to make this project happen.
Okay, so for setting the scene for the listeners, this was a young boy who grew up in the outback of nowhere in Argentina.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of these children like today, like we have over, around the world that's got their television, they got their iPads. No. This wasn't Juan at all. Juan Perez, his name was. This is right. Yes.
It's right, and he grew up in the middle of the countryside, in the center of Argentina.
Yeah. And he had to do his chores for his father and one thing or another with the animals and the land.
Well, it was 6 o'clock in the morning of September 6, 1978, and Juan leaves his house to go in search of the herd of horses to begin the task of the field. And after that, while he was riding his horse Comet, and after galloping a few meters, suddenly 3 lights came above of him, and they started to dance frenetically. And then he was scared. He returned to his house and said to his father, like, "Father, I saw 3 lights." And his father ignored him completely and asked Juan to go back to find the herd of horses. And when he came back, he saw a thick fog that was covering the entire field. And without fear, he decides to cross this bank of fog. His horse was a little scared, but thanks to the ability of Juan for horse riding, he was able to move forward. Well, if you want, I can continue about the case on what Juan's you want.
Yeah, continue on, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
Continue on with the story so that the listeners have got an idea of what we're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When crossing the fog bank, Juan sees that a white circular object was landed on the ground. Juan, in the original reports, he mentions that he thought that he was seeing a kind of tractor or a house for farm workers. He never said the word ship or UFO. And I want to highlight this because Juan, throughout the experience, he always thought that he was seeing something that was familiar to him, but in a different way. So a gate of the object opens and a tall being looks out and invites him to go up. A ladder descends from the ship. Juan shyly approaches with his horse, gets off and ties the stirrups to the ladder. Juan climbs the ladder as he can. Each step is very high for him. So finally he succeeds and enters the ship. Juan enters a very strange space for him, and what he saw was on his left side, he observes that there is a small being, like 1.5 meters tall, who was cutting meat on a transparent table. Instead of hands, it has scissors, and instead of feet, it has wheels. The small being ignores the presence of Juan completely. And on his right side, he sees the tall being, like about 3 meters tall. He's watching monitors and making hand movements as if he were typing on a touch screen. A very important detail that I want to mention is that in front of Juan, there was a transparent wall or a mirror that was preventing Juan from going to the other side.
Yeah, like a barrier.
Of this.
A barrier. Yeah.
A barrier, exactly. Was something like electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Juan tries to cross the wall with his hands, but he can't. On the contrary, the small being moves from one place to another without problems. Suddenly, the gate begins to close, and Juan is scared because he's afraid that his father will challenge him for being entertained. He quickly gets off the ship and sees that his horse was injured because he hit the ladder, and the tall being appears next to Juan, and Juan asks him for help. Suddenly, the tall being begins to squeeze Juan's arm and scratch him. I have to stop here because two things happen. If we see the original report, we will notice that after this scratch, Juan jumped. The tall being helped Juan to go back to his house because before that, I forgot to mention that Juan received a glove from him as a gift because the tall being told Juan by telepathy that it's a gift in order to his family believe on what Juan experienced. But what happened? Why is this is not part of the movie? Because in the movie we did a regression with a psychiatrist, Dr. Nestor Berlanda. It was the first time that Juan was having a regression, and it was very important for me to shoot this scene because I wanted to know if there is some lost memories during his case when he had this encounter. And what happened was actually something quite amazing because when he was having this scratch, Juan started to ask the tall being, "Why to me? Why are you doing this to me?" And then Juan had a vision or something like that. I don't want to say what he saw or where he was because I don't want to make spoilers. But what he saw was something so profound for him that he broke into tears. It was very emotional for all of us, but especially for Juan after 2 hours of regression. And Dr. Nestor Berlanda decided to stop the regression there. Okay. But after that vision, he got back to his house and tried to explain what he saw to his family.
So here's a young boy that has no idea of technology whatsoever. But when you were saying about the tall alien touching a screen, like touch type screen, obviously that didn't exist in those days. This is your definition of what it must have been like through one's description of what was actually happening at that time. And
I think also the other interesting aspect to the phenomenon, and especially within the film, is the spiritual element. And I think that you've covered a really important part with regards to how so many abductees suffer in silence because there is no real body to help them towards recovery or making them understand that what's happened to them is quite ordinary. even though the events themselves were so extraordinary. And of course, I love the way that you document that within your film.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saying that. And I want to say that Juan, his whole life, he thought that he was the only one who had this kind of experience. And that's why he felt so lonely, and he separated from his family when he was still a child, because he thought that he was the only one having this kind of supernatural experience. And also remember that in the movie we said that Juan, after the contacts, started to have premonition dreams, precognitive dreams, that for him it was actually a living hell to deal with it.
Yes, and also the fact that within ufology, I think a lot of people, researchers, tend to stick with the physical nuts and bolts aspect of this phenomena. Well, in actuality, there is a very deep spiritual connection. And I liked the idea of your film exploring this avenue of the psychic part and consciousness, and also of creation. So it really resonated with me, and I'm sure it resonated also with you, Irene, didn't it?
Oh, it did. Yes, it did. And to explain that part as well, after the experience, I don't know, you can tell me this, Alan, whether it was straight after, he began having dreams.
Yes,
Good and bad ones.
Exactly. After this contact, Juan started to have these kind of dreams. And the way he explained to me was like, he was telling me something like, Alan, these dreams are more real than our reality. Mm-hmm. And he also told me that if he go to sleep and dreams in his right side of his body, he will enter to this real dream. But if he sleep on his left side, he will go into a regular dream, ordinary. So this detail was quite special, because the right arm was the one who had this mark from this tall being, and it's something like a trigger that something activates one and enters this multidimensional dream that he will know, for example, if an accident will happen to a family or to a friend or to a neighbor. And it was a living hell for him, because he was not able to stop from happening. He was not able to stop this accident, to prevent them from happening. So that's why he, in the middle of the night, he started to move in order to block the premonition dream.
Yeah, and also the main emphasis here is that most people, when they've had a UFO encounter, normally discover that their psychic ability increases, precognitive abilities increase, and this is something that I think is very evident with a lot of the experiences that go through this. And of course, you can understand from one's perspective, he was isolated and had no one with which to relate these experiences to. But what's interesting and refreshing is that most of the people, the elders in Argentina, there is a group of people that understood this. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, the Guarani people.
Yeah. The Guarani, one of the most important cultures in South America. And I have to say that one of my questions was if there is a connection between the ancestors or the lineage of the witnesses and the UFO phenomenon, because Juan is a gaucho. A gaucho is like a cowboy from South America. And he has mixed blood, a half of indigenous and the other half from Spain. And I wanted to go to the jungle to enter this tribe, the Guarani tribe, because I wanted to know if this is true, if there is a connection between the culture and the UFO phenomenon. And also I wanted to know what they think about the UFO phenomenon. And the most important thing, I wanted to record a message for Juan from these shamans in order to see if Juan was able to start to feeling a little bit better after receiving those words from them. And that was my main goal. So the first step that I took while I was doing this project was that I went to Paraguay by myself.
Paraguay, yeah.
Yeah, Paraguay. And I went there just to try to make contact with the shamans. But what actually happened was that it was those days where it transforms to shooting days, because I record the main scenes from the movie. So for me it was quite special, because I never thought that I will be so welcoming. And Plutarco, one of the shamans, he told me that he was going to share with me all his knowledge, his secret knowledge, for the first time to white people, because it is time to us to know. And for me, it was a quite special gift.
So that is some gift.
Yeah.
Did he do it? He did it.
And
he shared his knowledge with you.
He shared his knowledge. I also had some deleted scenes that I was unable to put it on the film. But because for them, the UFO phenomenon or the supernatural world, it is natural for them. They don't separate as we do. We tend to
we put everything into boxes, don't we?
Into boxes, or we fall into dualism, like supernatural, natural, ordinary, extraordinary. They see the life and the world of the supernatural in a different way. It was really hard for me to understand their language. I'm not talking about the language. I'm talking about the way they speak, because they speak with symbols, with archetypes. So, for example, one of I'm quoting now Sylvia. He said to me that what Juan saw were all prayers. All prayers. All prayers. Yeah, it's quite odd to try to. So it wasn't easy to deal with them.
No. How did you? Sorry, Philip. Just one question. How did you discover them?
That's a good question. Well, I have a good friend who used to live in Paraguay, and I asked her to arrange to some meetings with them, with one tribe, because I wanted to go from the closest to others that are more open or are friendly with white men. So the first one that I went, it's the tribe from Plutarco. And when we went there, Plutarco received us, and he told us that the last night he dreamt about our coming. He knew that we were coming and the purpose of our trip. And that's the moment that he told us that he's willing to give all his secrets about the supernatural world, about he didn't say UFO phenomenon, but he was referring to that phenomenon.
I see. Philip, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to state that what's interesting and what really shocked me was the fact that what is supernatural to us is quite ordinary to them. And also I liked the way that they said that their clairvoyant has been sent from God. So there are really very powerful messages within your film and within one's experience, and you can see I think the most powerful element of the film was seeing his pain and also seeing the way that he was trying to deal with this and your help. And it was so refreshing and wonderful to see you breaking through to that recovery and healing for him. So how did that make you feel?
Well, as a human being, excellent. As a filmmaker, I think it was a gift to be part of this journey, because I have to say that at the beginning of this project, my main idea was to make a film about new theories about the UFO phenomenon, trying to explain theories like Dr. Jacques Vallée about the interdimensional idea of this phenomenon, and try to take the Juan Perez case just as an excuse to expose those theories. But what happened was that while I was working with Juan, I realized that I was dealing with a traumatized person, with a broken person. So my whole perception changed when I realized that the main goal was to help Juan, to put all the pieces together in order to give answers to him, to get shamans, to find a psychiatrist, and also to send a letter to Jacques Vallée to participate to in our movie. And I think thanks to that goal, everything
fell into place.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also, the other thing is that when he had that help from you and through the other people that brought him into their fold, you can see within the film how he begins to relax and become more accepting of what had happened. And it wasn't so much as a curse, because within the UFO phenomenon, because we don't understand it, because there is no acceptance of it, like the people of Argentina, or most of them within those cultures, that is why there is so much isolation with regards to acceptance. We fear it. And I think sometimes our understanding of that is that maybe we have to go through these raw experiences in order to come out the other end as survivors, as it were, or in terms of growth.
And I agree. And Juan was a survivor also. And that's why he lived as a monk, because he only received mockery from the outside world, from his family, his relatives, his friends, his co-workers. He wasn't able to share what happened to him, what he was dealing with, his dreams. So it was very difficult. That's why when I sat next to him the first time that I met him, he immediately after he started to speak to me about his case or his dream, he broke into tears. Just 5 minutes after he started to speak to me, he was wounded.
Yeah, the scenes where he actually has tears welling up in his eyes are very, very touching. I was choked, literally choked up. I felt so sad for him, you know? Yeah,
and I think the only evidence that we have from this case is his trauma. The trauma is the only hardcore evidence that we can get from this kind of witnesses. I know that plenty of researchers focus only on material evidence, photographs, videos, marks on the ground. But for me, it's like a lost case if I only focus on that aspect. I prefer to focus on the human aspect, on the psychological aspect, because we don't know nothing about our mind. We don't know what is conscious. We speak a lot about conscious and consciousness, but we don't know what is that word. We also don't know what is reality. For example, for the Guarani people, the dream world is more real than our reality. So for them, when they go to sleep, they have like a second life that it's way much more important than when they are awake. But for us, in Western, we don't actually got importance to our dreams.
That's right. Yeah, no, we don't. We don't. You're so right there, you know. But that's
I love the special effects of the craft, and the way.
Fog.
Yeah, and the fog, that was really very amazing, and you can it's almost as if you could live that moment, Alan, with regards to the effects of the craft, which was quite spectacular. And for a young child seeing that, I can understand that the only way that he could measure or relate to that was through something he knew already, even though he was trying to explain something a lot more advanced and than we were capable of really understanding. So the effects were quite spectacular, and I think that gives emphasis to the way it must have been for him. Did Guan help in any way with regards to those images of the craft itself?
Well, it was really difficult for him trying to explain what he saw. In the movie, I wanted to show it as an abstract image. I don't want it to show it like literally, because I prefer that the audience focus on the
story,
on the story rather than the objects, because we fall into details. But what I was going to tell you was, this detail that was really intriguing for me was that once one of the first things that Juan saw was this fog, but it was quite strange. It was not the typical fog. And when I was in Paraguay, while I was speaking to the shamans, they told me about the fog, because for them the fog, it is called Tatachina, and Tatachina is an entity that it's like how can I say? It's like a sign in order to let you know that something is going to happen. A message from the supernatural world is going to happen.
Yeah.
So they know that the fog is really important, and plenty of cases, fog it's like a living entity that it's there for a purpose. And behind that fog, there was this big spacecraft, but for Juan, it was only a tractor, and that's why he was not afraid, because he thought that it was their friends from the farm, but with a different vehicle.
Yeah. But the strange thing about that also, when he saw the little being cutting up the meat, there was no blood, was there?
There was no blood. And another detail that is not in the movie is that 2 days before the case, this event, 2 cows in his farm were mutilated.
Oh, no.
Yep. That's a big detail, because it was not very common in Argentina, but at that time, the cases from mutilated cows. It was more, it was more popular during the 90s, but not during the 78.
Also, getting back to Jacques Vallée, when Jacques Vallée arrived, he told you also of 3 other cases that happened that week where children actually saw something.
Yeah, and thanks to him, I was able to track them. He gave to me his original reports from the 70s, and I went to find them, and I was able to find 2 of them because the third one was already dead. One of them was the carpenter of the hometown, Carlos E. León. But the 2 of them, the same thing happened, because when they had the encounter, when they were like staring to this phenomenon, immediately after they ran away because they didn't want to make contact. And I think the case of Juan is quite special is because of his fearless, because he wanted to know what was inside of that ship. It was not an abduction case because he enters this ship voluntarily. So it was quite special.
Could it have been because the other two children came from more built-up areas? One had a bicycle, there was cars,
and the other
about,
was a car.
Yeah, where one come from out in the middle of nowhere, where there was none of this. You know, they didn't have television, they didn't have any of this sort of thing.
Influence, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's one of the reasons why, and plus his background and, you know, being brought up like a farm boy, a boy that is toughened up by his father.
Yeah, and his father was very strict, very severe. So that's a good confession, Irene.
And this is why he didn't find why he didn't have the fear that no other children would have. And also being more naive than them to the world. Yeah,
I agree. Probably.
I think the other thing that your film, Alan, denotes is the fact of what we are as a human species. I think that, you know, a lot of people question that, and I myself and Irene and many other people have questioned our true purpose, our true genesis, our origins, and where we're going. And I think you've had an experience. It tends to open up the mind to different dimensions of thought, and you know, if we keep within the careful parameters of that thinking, because you get some people who unfortunately go off the rails and other people who are in complete denial, but walking that straight path forward reveals to us, all of us, that we are here for a purpose, that life is just not random, and you know, it's just there is much more to our spiritual journey. And I believe that at the moment our world is in a very bad place, and a lot of people still don't seem to comprehend this, and that is very sad. So your film gives others hope. It gave me hope, and Irene, I'm sure it gave you hope, because it shows that this kind of thing has happened in the past and continues to happen today. And that's one of the most important parts, I think, that denotes that this is a reality.
Thanks for saying that. Yes, and I agree. That was one of the purpose on doing this film, try to give this kind of message.
So your personal feelings about this, Alan, do you yourself believe, obviously making a documentary of this kind, you've been searching yourself, but do you believe that we have a soul, and that these entities are coming in to change us, to connect with us?
Well, that's a hard question. I can speak about the UFO phenomenon. What I believe is this is we are still don't know what we are dealing, but I know that there is something out there that it's linked to our conscious. To our human conscience. That's what I know for sure. Yes. I don't know why it is involved. But the other question that I had during the film was if there is a connection between the afterlife and the UFO phenomenon. That was I think the most profound question that I had was that, because for 3 years, the last 3 years, while I was doing the film, I was asking myself if there is life after life. So I don't know why, but every night I was thinking on this subject, and somehow, I don't know why, this question came to the UFO phenomenon also. I wanted to know if probably these UFO are more spirits, or they come from the spiritual world rather than from Mars or Neptune or Jupiter. I don't know.
Now this is Alan. This is one thing that I've been asking myself about for many years now, and doing the radio shows. So often we've had guests on here that tell us about the fact that they've been abducted, they've gone on a craft, and they've seen their loved ones that had died years beforehand. Now, whether they're screen memories that these beings are projecting into the minds of these people or not, I don't know. Or are they seeing their loved ones? Are they really there?
Yeah. Yes, and I don't have the answer for that. If there is of these entities has the ability to project or manipulate the reality from this being. If it's that true, we are dealing with bad entities like demons. I don't want to mess with them. But
also,
but what happened with Juan, I think in the words of these shamans, Juan had an initiation, a shamanic initiation. But after more than 40 years, he was able to reintegrate that experience, and also his mother too, because I want to share something with you. His mother also had an experience when she was a child, but this was something that it was hidden from the family. She told to Juan after the movie was done that she also was a contactee. And thanks to the movie process, she was able to share this experience with Juan, with his family. So this movie is about a healing journey for Juan, but also happened the same with his family, with his mother, with the whole community of Venado Tuerto, his hometown. So it was really nice to witness the results from this movie.
Yeah. That I've heard before as well. You know, where contactees it's gone down the line.
Yes.
You know, sort of thing. But where was I? Also, you know, when he went to be with the shamans and everything, he received his real name, didn't he?
Well, for plenty of indigenous cultures, we have two names, like the external name, Alan, Philip, Irene, Mark, and one spiritual name that it's very deep inside of our heart or our soul, that it's linked directly to our spirits. Behind that name, there is the purpose of our life, the meaning, the truly meaning of why are we here on this earth. So these shamans, for example, from the Guarani tribe, once a year, they made a ritual that it's called Mitakarai, that is the ritual of the name. So they dance for 3 years, they sing, and we were allowed to record that secret ritual and also to have the experience for Juan and also for myself to have this to know our real name.
Okay, yeah. And there was something else I wanted to... He had dark moments where he saw the destruction of the earth.
Oh, yes. He had a regular dream and a vision also when he was having this experience with these entities, because one of the things that he received from them that they are here working, they have plenty of work to do, and he asked them like, why are you working, what are you doing? And he saw like a storm or a thunder or something like that was coming to the earth, and they were preventing from this to happen because it was like a mass destruction from our earth.
So this is like another premonition.
Yeah.
Something that's going to come, something to come.
Yeah. Something to come from the outer space.
Yeah. Oh. Wow.
I think
oh dear.
You know, with a lot of the abductees or experiencers, as they call them, you know, they normally, the visitors have normally shown them some element of destruction or worldly destruction. And most definitely a lot of them have brought their loved ones on board the craft. So I wonder whether or not the visitors somehow connect consciously with the individual and portray themselves as an element of that individual's understanding of what we call reality. So the visitors may appear as light greys to some people. They may appear as Nordics to others. It's rather like a near-death experience when someone has an NDE and they come back, it changes them. And the same happens with regards to an abduction. So these transformations, these changes are very radical. And normally I think the intention is to change the soul of that person, because we're all looking patterns to try and put this all together. And I've always said that these may be very personal experiences, unique to the individual themselves, you know?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Philip. I think the whole purpose of this experience is to change or transform the soul of these witnesses.
Yes, definitely. I do agree, because when we're trying to look for the holy grail of what this all means, it continually eludes us. And many people who believe that it's the jinn, and many that believe that it's angels, and we have this war on our hands with different thoughts and theories. And really, it may be, I believe, perhaps working on a very intricate and personal soul level, so that the experience itself will be unique. But I just have to say, it's a beautiful film.
Thank you, Philip, again for your words.
It is a very, very beautiful film. And how long we got now? I'm wondering, you're with us for an hour. We must be coming up on the time. I know that you're busy and you've got phone calls coming in.
Oh, yeah, I have 2 more calls. I think this will be a long night.
It will be a long night. Anyway, also, what's brilliant about this is that, to me, that him being a young boy and the background he came from, he had no contamination. Nothing contaminated him. He more than likely never read comics of Superman or anything like that, did he?
No, that's right. That's very interesting, Irene, because I thought that myself, because he was so isolated. And what's unique about the experience is that, no one could be influenced or fabricate that type of story, because it truly did affect him from a soul level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really liked was when I was reading his reports when he was 12, he never used the word ship or UFO or spacecraft. He always mentions things that are quite similar for him, like tractor, house of workers, etc.
That's interesting, because there's no way of measuring that experience if you've not been contaminated to it. It's, so his experience with the lights and the fog, he could understand that because he knows what lights are and he knows what fog is. But then, of course, when it comes to the machine itself, his processing or understanding is that it probably was a tractor, but actually had been a spacecraft or an advanced mechanism. And we only have to go back into biblical times. And, there's the stories of the smoke and the fire coming on Mount Sinai. You have all these, other amazing incidents that happened in history, because I do believe that we have been influenced by extraterrestrials, or what we would call extraterrestrials. They may very well be our elders or part of our creators. Who knows? These are the fascinating questions that we're left with. So certainly, one's experience, the way that you've portrayed it is beautiful, and also shows the negative people what it's like for someone who goes through this experience, what it feels like to be on the outside.
Exactly. And how can we help them? And also, quoting Jacques Vallée, we have to learn so much from them that we don't know yet.
Yeah, we have got a hell of a lot to learn. I will give it that. Yeah. So
Jacques Vallée's theory of the fifth dimension. He mentioned the fifth dimension, and we're just beginning to, come out of preschool really as human beings. I find that, with regards to these experiences, I think that people like Juan and many other experiences hold the information, and it's locked within their psyche. And because it's so powerful, it may take a long time for that to be digested and processed. But it was so wonderful and beautiful to see him at the end beginning to embrace, that he was loved and that people accepted him, and that, yours and Jack Vallet's help was instrumental in that. And you can see how he's changed. So he's no longer a man of fear, but more of a man now of acceptance.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the film, because you will see a whole transformation from a traumatized man to a relieved man at the end of the movie.
Did he explain any more? Has he had any other UFO experiences, or was that the main one that actually happened to him? Does he recall any other experiences within his life at all?
Well, that's an excellent question, because it gives me the opportunity to say the importance of the follow-up of these kind of cases, because after 40 years, he started to remember that two other experiences he witnessed when he was 40 and when he was 45.
Wow.
And we did another regression to help him to remember with more details. And the last time that I spoke to him, I think it was a month and a half. And he also witnessed big lights that were coming to his house. And it was seen by his whole family, his father, his mother, his siblings. So I have to say, yes, it was not the first time.
Yes.
For sure, it won't be the last.
No, this is normally a pattern with experiences and abductees. There is normally more than one, and it normally follows a generation or a line within a family. That's very interesting indeed.
Indeed.
Also, I want to say to the listeners that this movie, as touching as it is, and it really is touching, I tell you have your tissues ready, because you can tell by how it's affected our Philip. It affected me the same way. But it's mostly spoken in English by yourself, isn't it? And wherever it is spoken in Spanish, there are subtitles.
Yes, it has both languages, and both of them will have subtitles. And our official website, if you want to have more information, it's witnessofanotherworld.com.
Witnessofanotherworld.com. That's right. Yeah. And it's released tomorrow, and it's released on the majority of platforms, like you were saying.
iTunes, Amazon, Google.
And the PA UK Radio Network. So that means that this show will be going out on Paranormal UK Radio Network tomorrow, PA UK Radio Network. And we will be picked up on iTunes as well. And we go out on Amazon. We go out everywhere. So that's people will be able to hear this. And I will hopefully get this out before the movie tomorrow. What time is the movie going out, Alan?
I think it's 3 a.m. Pacific time.
3 a.m. Pacific time. I'll have to work that one out.
Well, I have to say, Alan, I'm very honoured to be speaking to you. And I'm also very honoured to have been given the opportunity from both Irene and Mark for me to view the film, which really moved me very much. So I can only say that I was very touched and moved by the film. I know you see a lot of people and you talk to a lot of people, but I just have to tell you how grateful I am for the work that you've done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you, Philip and Irene. It was a pleasure for me.
And thank you for being our guest. That was an even bigger pleasure for us. And Alan, I know you've got to rush off, and I presume the hour is up. Philip, I've been trying to get in touch with their producer, but he's not answering. So
we're there now.
Yeah, I'm only on a guessing game here now. So, he's just answered. Okay, so we'll end the show, people. We go out tomorrow on the PA UK Radio Network and just about everywhere else. And Alan, if you've just got a few minutes after we've ended the show just to talk for a couple of minutes before your calls, I would be grateful.
Okay.
Okay?
Very much. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you stay there too, Philip. Okay, we're finishing the show now. Boom, gone, out, done, doom. Okay, Mark, got that one? Philip, Alan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, you said earlier on that you've done these documentaries now, and that you're going to go into other types of filming. Is that correct?
Well, it's correct, and I'm hoping to make another movie next year about the origin of man, this lost civilization that was settled thousands of years in America. I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to participate on this project with Graham Hancock. I went to the UK last month, and
Graham Hancock. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, I met him in California at the beginning of this year, and then I got to the UK a couple of weeks ago, and I'm hoping to have him on board, and also it will be we will have the participation of one of the greatest researcher on Earth. It's Anselm Pirambla. He was one of the few that went there and tried to dig into the heart of the Andes in order to find this evidence of this lost civilization. He excavated in a church, El Convento de Santo Domingo. It's below that church, there is the Coricancha, and the Coricancha is the Inca temple of the sun, the most important temple for the Incas. And below that temple, there is a big tunnel, 2-kilometer tunnel, that it's, and according to the chronicles and the legend, the whole Andes is connected below Earth, thanks to chambers and tunnels. And we want to find those evidence to prove this idea.
Yeah.
Wow. That's gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be I'm involved in this project for 10 years, so I'm hoping to get funds. It's not easy to make movies, independent movies, but I'm still here.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be a big one. Well, we've been banging out the advertising on this one for you, and we'll do that again tomorrow. But Philip.
Yes.
Shush. That was my ears. But when you do that one, Alan, when you get that film sorted and in the can, let us know so we can do a bit of advertising for you.
Thank you, Irene. I will let you know.
That'd be brilliant. Well, there was one question I did want to bring up during the show, which I forgot. I forgot about it. The shaman, Alan, they spoke about these beings living underground.
Oh.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm still trying to figure out what he was trying to tell to me, because I don't know, because he told me that these beings are Tupamiri. Tupamiri means like little spirits, or spirits that are linked to our world or to our reality.
Like the fairy people.
But they live in another dimension, but it's quite close to our dimension. So I think he was referring to that thing. But the intriguing part was that they were living below Earth or under Earth. So I think I have to go back to Paraguay and try to get more answers from that.
Yeah, because, if these little things, or whoever they are that live below the Earth, also are the same things that are in the UFOs.
Yeah.
We do radio shows all the time where people talk about these UFOs going down inside mountains, going down into the sea.
Yes.
Under the oceans.
Yes. Something it's for sure below Earth, but we cannot give answers for now because we don't have those evidence. But I think we will.
Yeah, and I think you better go back to Paraguay.
I will, for sure I will.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's another show. Live from Paraguay. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining us, Alan. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry it can't be longer, but you are a busy man. I understand that.
Thank you so much, Irene, and thank you so much, Philip. It was a pleasure.
Well, that was Alan Stivelman talking about his new documentary, Witness to Another World, which is going to be released on all major platforms on October the 22nd, Tuesday, October the 22nd. You can pick it up on Google Play, Amazon, iTunes. He did say iTunes, and just about everywhere. So have a look at that, because I tell you what, you will be crying. You will need tissues, because it is so heart-wrenching. And I'm still here with Philip Kinsella, my co-host for tonight. And we've been joined by Philip's twin brother, also from the Twin Souls radio show, Ronald Kinsella, because Ronald also has seen the movie along with Philip. And he wants to give his views on it as well. So we're going to talk a little while about the movie. And Ronald, are you there?
Yes, hello, Irene. Yes, I watched the movie, and I must say, the first thought that came to my head was that it's very different. I'll put that lightly. It's very different, and it was a refreshing difference, because it takes a different approach from a story I found was not also emotional, but I also found it to be quite horrific as well. I thought, what happened to him, was quite horrific, really. I just thought it was quite beautifully done. I mean, the special effects were second to none. I love them.
Yeah, they were very good, weren't they? But also, one thing about this is, like I kept on earlier on, talking about the innocence of one. And it's a good job that he was an innocent boy that didn't know the things that most children know today, because that way he was able to get through his experience, although it did affect him in older life as he grew up.
Yes.
With nightmares and things.
Yes, also I think with people like one is that, which is very sad, is that when children, I had an experience when I was 13, so in a way I can appreciate what he has to go through. Not only has he got the horror of dealing with the encounter with the aliens himself and what happened afterwards, but it's also the reaction, I think, from his community or people that might know him. And it's no wonder that he was traumatized, because it made me, I'll tell you what I felt afterwards, watching that. I felt a bit angry, because not with one or the production, but people in general, because, if he had told them earlier, they would have probably laughed at him, or they would not have believed him. And so he's carried this weight for so long. And I think from watching that, I think it was good for one, because I think he felt this sense of relief that he came out about the aliens and the encounter, and with these wonderful people with him. I feel like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, and he looked at the end a little bit more relaxed. He looked just so, he accepted it, and that he was pleased that others had come about to actually acknowledge this actually did happen,
Yeah, so he got closure on it, didn't he?
Yes, that's right. And thank goodness the people did pursue it, especially Alan, because if they hadn't, we'd never have known. And imagine how many people out there who've had similar experiences that we're never going to know, because they're too frightened to tell others about it. Now, I know that the subject of UFOs and spirituality is still taboo. It is. you still have people who will, they'll smile at you and say, oh, yes, they sympathize, but really they're laughing behind you.
Go and take an aspirin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is still, I mean, for an example, when I spoke about my own encounter about the doctors, when I first did my talk, so I can appreciate from where one is coming from, when I did my first talk, I felt really embarrassed afterwards. I did feel so embarrassed and quite prone. And then you get the issue of they perhaps think you're mentally
unstable.
Yes, unstable. So, but I'm pleased to see that film had a very positive note, and I was quite moved. I mean, the point being, we won't give anything away because the film is to be seen, but I was really driven because I knew what the producer had done very cleverly. He'd interwoven sections as they happened. You get the gradual story coming out in ages, which I liked, and I thought that's what really gripped me, and I was so gripped to see what one had actually encountered, and I thought it actually inspired me. I mean, after watching that film, I was very inspired, and it fascinated me. I won't, as I said, give away any snippets about it, especially what he saw on board the ship. That was quite disturbing, but I thought it was an extremely constructive and a different documentary, refreshing.
Yeah. Now, before we go on, because we didn't mention his name very, very much when we were talking with Alan. When you're saying one, right? One. For anybody listening, we're not talking proper Queen's English here, like one has to go down the road to buy a loaf of bread. One is actually Juan Perez, the boy who grew up to be in his 40s that had the experience as a child.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that straight for anybody that may have just tuned in, hadn't heard the earlier part of the show. Also,
Irene, this is still Ronnie, I also felt there was quite a lovely spiritual aspect to it.
Yeah.
Especially at the end, I didn't realise. But for one to actually acknowledge that and to be so positive about them afterwards, I was surprised at that because it was quite horrifying for him. But I think he embraced it with a degree of positiveness, which is actually quite encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
He and I thought that was very nice that, the weight had been lifted off him. And generally, I think he's a lovely chap. I thought he was absolutely lovely.
He was, wasn't he? He was an absolute sweetie. But, Ronnie, when he was crying, when he was welling up with tears and they were rolling down his cheek, I don't believe that he was doing that because he was frightened. He was doing that because of relief. He was able to get his story out at last.
Yes, that's quite true. I mean, certainly it's not about my encounter, but certainly with mine, I've never welled up. But I think if people help you, because he had psychologists with him and the cream of ufology, didn't he? And he had very professional people.
Yeah, Jacques Vallée.
Yes, that's right. The cream of ufology, and I feel that. Yes, it was an emotional release. I agree. I think on that, I agree on that. Because I would never well up. I don't know how I'd react if they got it out of me, because half of mine is covered. I know that.
Yeah, but you also come from a different background, don't you? He came from out of nowhere.
Yes. Which is all.
He lived just on a little ranch with his family, and that's it. More than likely, hundreds of miles away from the nearest neighbour, if be known.
Yes, and that's where they got him, you see. That's very interesting as well, Irene, the isolated location where they arrived, and it left a lot of questions for me, and I was intrigued by these questions. I won't announce them because that would spoil the documentary, because it would raise issues which it portrayed. But it opened up a whole barrage of questions for me, which were fascinating. I thought this was very constructive, and I absolutely loved the fresh approach to this documentary. Yeah. And, as I said, it kept me gripped. I was just gripped to watch it. I just kept wanting to see what happened next, from point of view and from the producer.
Yeah.
thought it was very interesting, Irene, because this is Philip.
No, this is Philip, isn't it? You both sound exactly the same. Being identical twins, this is a problem, but still.
Yeah. What I found really interesting was the fact that we have experiences with positive and negative ETs, and I was under the impression that these particular group of extraterrestrials, if want of a better word, because we don't really know what they are, but they seem to be rather benign, and I feel that, you know, our understanding of the phenomenon itself is very decompartmentalized, because, as I said before, Irene, a lot of researchers are looking into the nuts and bolts aspect, and really, as I've always said, and I'm sure that you're aware, and Ronnie and many others, that there is a spiritual connection, and that the experience itself seems to connect with the individual on a very personal note or expression. And I like the way that Dr. Jack Vallée had actually said about, you know, the fifth dimension, and that we're perceiving here a holographic image. And that actually makes sense, because when we're dealing with consciousness on a limited flow of awareness in this human form, as I understand it, when we die, that consciousness is no longer limited to its flow of awareness. It's more heightened. And I really felt that there was a very deep message in that film with regards to, this is not the end, this is the beginning. And that I found very, and particularly something that I couldn't get out of my mind. It really affected me a little bit after I watched the film, and then it stayed with me afterwards.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, I mean,
I understand that.
This is Ronnie, Irene. I've also, when I watched, what was interesting, when I watched the documentary, I personally wasn't sure which angle to take on the so-called aliens. I was not under the impression they were wholly benign. I don't know. I mean, I think that's left to the viewer, is what it's left to the audience to decide. I mean, one said it was sort of like, it's what they did for him that was actually positive, but there are also negative aspects to it too. So I wasn't sure about whether they were wholly benign, but I thought that was interesting as well. And as the questions raised, as I said before, are very interesting. It raises a lot of questions, which I like.
Yeah, I understand. But also, you know, with one's description of the aliens was very, very naive. But when you go back in time and you look at the people from the past, half of their descriptions are like flying chariots. You know, they put...
Yes.
They you know...
Yeah.
They describe it as something they can only describe what they know. And they see a spaceship up in the sky, but they know about chariots and horses. So they put it like that, a chariot, without the horses and things. Yeah,
that's right. But you see, the really strange thing about this phenomenon is that
but this boy was describing tractors.
Yeah, I was just going to
things like that.
Yeah, this is something that obviously the visitors themselves are able to access within our mind, especially the child, to make the scene appear almost playful to an extent, because I think they themselves, the visitors, I mean, would totally understand that they may freak if they saw a spaceship landing. And I believe that this toy, childlike quality is something that they employ in a lot of cases, and especially with adults. I mean, the tractor is quite classic. And of course, the ladder that came down. So as a child, he'd be curious to go up and see what was in there. And I think a lot of the images of extraterrestrials that people recall or remember, especially with Whitley Strieber's Communion, with the cover of The Grey that was released in 1987, and that seemed to awaken a lot of memories in a lot of the general public, as though they remembered or recalled on a deeper level of the psyche the image of this creature, which is absolutely bizarre. So I totally agree, Irene, with you that the visitors employ these, these way of accessing memories deep within the core brain itself and bringing them forward. So they're remarkable. They know how to do themselves.
Yeah, I understand that. It is remarkable, but they also needed that boy to be there for a reason. So whether they were studying him within those few minutes that they had him, or however long the time was, I don't know, but they had to have him in a relaxed state.
Yes, I was intrigued by that as well, Irene, because I said to Philip, when these things happen, I mean, you certainly ask, why me? Why me? Was it a case of he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time? I don't think so. I actually don't think so. That, as you said, that boy was meant to see them, and also what they did to him afterwards. But it's always the case, isn't it? You do question, why me? It's like with so many other people who've had these experiences, they do actually inevitably ask, is it personal, or were they just snatched at the time, or did they just see them at that time? I mean, an example, I'll give you our uncle, who's now passed. I remembered, and he was absolutely down to earth. He was a builder, and he was a lovely man, and he would have no nonsense. And one time we went to visit him, and he told us that because they lived by the sea, and he was taking the dog for a walk, and he saw this gigantic cigar ship come out of the ocean, and all these lights. I think, if I remember correctly, what he told me was all these little lights drew up from the ocean behind it and entered it, and then it just shot off, and he was as white as a ghost. Now, was he meant to see that? I don't know. Was it just a coincidence? I don't know. I don't think everything is coincidental. And certainly with one, I think you're right. I think he was meant to be there at that time because he was with his horse, and he was in the middle, as you said. He's out in the sticks, so it's an opportune, if there were entities of such nature, an opportune moment for them to take in actually probably having him there with them. And as you said, they might have briefly examined him. It seemed to me that they were well aware of humans anyway.
They may not physically examined him, but they got into his mind anyway.
That's right. That's indeed what they did. Were they distracting him through what they were doing? I don't know. We don't know what they were inevitably really truly doing. I don't think he'll know. One will know what they were doing there, but certainly he had a spiritual experience from it, which wasn't bad. So that goes to show that they understand us very well for what they did to him, or for him, because they understand us very well. These entities, whatever they are, I think there's a majestic power they have, but they can also show a dark side to them as well. There is a dark side. Perhaps it's something we don't understand, or we mistakenly put through as being negative, but certainly they're not all like angelic, are they?
No, I don't think so.
The other thing that I found really interesting was
which one of you is this?
It was Philip. Sorry, Irene. One of the other things I found really interesting was the fact that it all seems to revolve around a darker element to the earth and what one was saying was coming. And to his mind, it was something that his people as well, those shamans or the religious sects that embraced him, said that there is this darkness coming. Now, from that, I could only assess that we as a human species are evolving, and I think they said something with regards to, well, Alan did, he said something with regards to that we must come in this form to evolve spiritually, and the shamans have said that as well. But I just get this idea that we are some type of experiment to see perhaps how consciousness evolves on its own and individually. And certainly, when you look at life, our life expectancy is very short in comparison to the universe that we're just beginning to, understand in a very small way. So I do, the feeling I got literally was that we are all involved in some type of experiment, and there are higher beings who are wanting to assist within this progression of consciousness, as it were. I mean, we can say, Alan did say, didn't he, that on board the craft, one also had seen something very distressing that was being done to an animal, didn't he?
That's true. Yeah.
So that would account for
some meat. He said it was. And sorry about this, but anyone hearing a lot of squeaking going on, squawking and everything is Pickles Pee-wee the parrot. He's in the room and I can't shut him up, and I can't move his cage because it's too big.
Don't worry.
Getting back to that. He said it was meat because when the being cut the meat, there was no blood from it. When he got scratched after coming out of the ship or the UFO, there was no blood.
Yes, and that's interesting.
Yes, this is Ronnie, Irene. This goes towards the, I know we don't say it, but I'm going to say it, cattle mutilations, because when we've done our research on that, as many others have, that when the carcass is dropped or dumped, there's no blood at all in them. It's extracted. I suppose it would make sense because when they're doing their operations or examining them or whatever it is, I mean, one said it was meat, but they were probably cutting it up to analyze it. I came to a conclusion on that, not from one's encounter. That might be different, I don't know, but I came to a conclusion that is it possible that, we hear of these cattle mutilations, and it is happening. It's not fiction. It is going on. There's no blood discovered. They're not cults, not all of them. Most of them are something quite unique because they've used laser precision technology to cut them open. Their eyes are missing, and that it's not very pleasant, I know. But I said to Philip, is it possible? Because mainly cattle. Well, I said to Philip that cattle eat grass, and they're a major source of our diet. Is it possible these things are looking at what we ingest? Are they keeping checks on how it affects us? I don't know. But certainly from when he saw the, as we call it, meat, it is quite possible. But then we move on to you will have those...
Ronnie, there was something that Alan told us off air about that runs along the similar lines to this, and we'll explain that to you later because it is... we just don't want to give it away because he told us it off air.
No, that's fair enough. But it does raise other issues with people looking at these encounters, that you will always have those who will say, and we're going to say the word demonic.
Yeah.
They will consider these to be demons. Now, I could not tell you, I don't think they could, or the best ufologists could tell you if they're demons or not. We don't know. We've heard of them. And there's no smoke without fire. But that's what I said about them being benevolent and also non-benevolent. I mean, there were some darker aspects to them. So are they demons? Is this an illusion from hell? Are they visitors from hell? Or are they extraterrestrials? Or are they from interdimensional world? We don't know. But I mean, the positive thing is they didn't, well, as far as we know, they didn't harm one. I mean, it seems to me that looking at these cattle mutilations and all that, they don't seem to harm people, mainly harm them. There have been a few encounters where people have been discovered, cut up, but not many, thank God. But mainly they showed some, I felt it was like exactly as it was. They knew he was a child, he was innocent, and he was there, and they were okayed with him. I mean, although it was traumatic for him, it would be for anyone, but they weren't. They were quite civil with him to a degree. They didn't harm him in any way, although they did mark him, but they didn't harm him. So we look at every aspect of this. Whether it's, I mean, some people when they see these things, they turn religious. They think they're angels. Others will consider them to be demonic, whereas many others will consider them to be from another planet or interdimensional. I'm under my personal views on this, my own personal views, especially watching ones, is either one, I'm going to say there's two options here. Either they are possibly demons or demonic, giving an illusion, or they are from another dimension. Those are the two which I focused on after watching the beautiful documentary. I thought to myself, it's either one or two of those. I don't believe these are from outer space. I think these are perhaps interdimensional.
I think they're interdimensional.
Yes, or from the demon planes, or as we call it, hell, or demonic. I don't know. But the point being is the interesting factor is they clearly understand us very well, because I won't give it away because I'm not going to spoil the documentary. But
they've been studying us for a very long time, haven't they?
They know us very, very well. Very.
Irene, Philip, I also love the way because the way that they
expressed that we're waking up from the dream of who we are, and that we can't or don't know how to coexist on Earth. Now, that is very interesting, because if we look at the world population and see as what we represent as a species, it's quite evident that we just don't get on, and that is the truth of the matter. And I know people will be up in arms saying, oh, but it is the truth. We are a war...
Always fighting.
Yeah, we're a warmongering
civilization, yeah.
And I think that what maybe these interdimensional entities are doing is perhaps coming or selecting a vast proportion of society or individuals within society to accelerate the spiritual growth, because I believe that the journey, or our journey, is from past, it's never ever improved. We've always gone round in circles, and it's almost as if we have been subjugated mentally, consciously, through the educational systems and through what we're taught, and that we still haven't moved. And I think that perhaps these interdimensional species are coming in to help to advance with this acceleration. And
so you think that maybe in hundreds of years' time there will be no one with this warmongering attitude that we've got now?
No,
left.
I think that there will still be, but it could be a process whereby that perhaps, and as incredible as it may seem, the individuals are taken away or removed, because if we go into the ancient texts, there is a war that's been going on, a silent war. And whichever way we look at this, people will say, oh, that sounds like something from science fiction. Well, I'm afraid that, what we consider to be science fiction with these experiences is nothing less than science fact. And if researchers, which they've started to discover, and other people understand that we have, as a public, been lied to by the establishment and by the system we serve, who are in constant denial of this phenomena, it tells you that they don't want the people to know certain things, because it might, we might all run amok. But I do believe personally that there is a process that's occurring, and that when people say, oh, I've been abducted and I've had this experience, which is true and real, even though that the experiences are very different from someone else's, depending on the observation of that abduction, but they're happening for a reason, and it's not just within this life. Of course, spiritually, it tells us that we're more than flesh and blood, and that our journey is this is a short passage on this realm. And I've always understood that, because it wouldn't make any sense to try and get everything fitted in this one life. It's like having one driving lesson and saying, well, that's it, you're finished. Irene, is also, I will say that this is Ronnie, the thing that I loved about that documentary is the fact that it was so unique in its own right. I mean, you hear of these isolated cases, and thank goodness, as I said, he came out with it in the end without the aliens. But you see, we are like you and many other people. I mean, I appreciate the fact that encounters do happen, whereas we are very level-headed like yourself and many others, whereas you'll get people in the world, I can't be done with them when they say they've had battles with reptilians on distant planets and they're being abducted every minute of the day. No, I don't look into those. Philip and I, like yourself, look into these cases which are very bizarre, and you just get a sense, it's genuine. You know it's genuine. It's like Betty and Barney Hill was absolutely genuine. You have Calvin Parker, that was absolutely genuine. You have these genuine cases where people are so traumatized by them, and one is no exception. He was very moved by it, very, very emotional about it, and I can understand exactly, watching it, what the horrors he saw when he was a child.
Yeah, and also, Ronnie, he never got nothing from it. All he got from it was peace of mind for doing the documentary. Yeah, well, he lived like that all his life, as we now know from the documentary. So he's got nothing to gain. In fact, when people come out with these, they have so much to lose, because, as I said, the reputation is at stake. And although people smile at you and they appear sympathetic, you don't know what they're thinking, or
saying behind your back. But I'm glad I was introduced to this, because it really inspired me, this documentary on the lovely one, but as I said, that we're like you, we have a a guideline where we deal with certain cases which are very, very unique and very, very, very honest as well. Whereas, as I said, you have people saying, they've gone to Venus and they've met the Venetians, or they've gone to Mars. And
I went to Venice.
yeah. They've had a trip around the cosmos and they've seen battles and wars. No. We have to be practical here. We have to be very practical.
Yeah.
I think we have an inherent ability of knowing inwardly what is right and what is wrong, what is genuine, what is not. This is what we're conditioned with.
What about the fact that these people, many of them report psychic abilities after this has happened? With one, he had precognition dreams where if he dreamt somebody was going to die, within a short period of time, they would die, and he couldn't do anything about it.
Yes, because it seems to me that our senses are heightened. Somehow they're fine-tuned. Certainly, as I said about my own case with the doctors, after them, and I think they did good, although it was horrifying, I became very artistic, extremely artistic.
Yeah.
So there's always something.
The doctors, by the way, are not the doctors at your local hospital, are they? They are a type of being that you experienced.
Yes, they wouldn't show themselves. They were disguised.
So you call them a doctor, the doctors?
Yes, I was 13. Yeah, I was 13. I was a kid. They wouldn't show me. I knew that wasn't them. They were wearing coverings. They wouldn't show themselves. So I didn't know what. I just thought they were a very important a force. I knew they weren't people. But yes, I mean, I was traumatized by that. And of course, like one, I did not mention them. I was 13. I'm now 50, going on to 51. I didn't mention them until a few years ago. So this is what really heartened me to one's story. It's the fact that I did not myself come out with it until only 3 or 4 years ago, probably 3 years ago. It took that long. And I could absolutely appreciate, what he went through. And how hard that must have been for him to actually to relay it to the researchers, to the pioneers. How hard that must have been for him, because that's where I really connected with him. And I think this documentary is going to do a whole lot of good for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, carry on.
No, I was just going to say the other thing, Irene, was the other thing that, this is Philip, that I found intriguing was fact that they're very close to home. Now, most researchers assume that certain entities come from across space. Now, just taking one example, a very famous case, the Betty and Barney Hill case that happened in 1961. Now, the aliens had proven to Betty that they were from a star system called Zeta Reticuli, which is about 33.9 light years away. Now, it's not. I don't think or feel that those entities themselves had travelled solely from their star system to just come for Betty and Barney Hill. It could be that they're showing them where they're originally from. And the other thing is that when we look at the evidence with UFO contact, alien contact, as they call it, is the fact that these entities, for instance, the Betty and Barney Hill, the greys that were seen by them, or the type of greys, they were amazed that they could remove Barney's dentures, but they tried to remove Betty's, and she had to explain to them that her teeth were real. So because it confused the aliens with regards to our physiology. Now, what's interesting is that either one, that this is the first time that they've encountered a human race back then, with the case with Betty and Barney Hill. I'm not talking about all creatures, or that they'd never abducted anyone that had false teeth. So my understanding is that these entities do, I feel, operate on a interdimensional level of reality, and that there are different species which are personal to the individuals themselves, because that was something that always stuck in my mind. Aliens coming down and they prize out Barney's teeth, God love him, and then they try to take out Betty's, and they were confused, and I think that was very endearing and added to the realism of their experience, because that just goes to show that in each case that you study and you examine, it just makes it more complicated and also fascinating.
Well, yeah, I'm just imagining that actually.
Yeah.
Sorry about the laughing,
No,
but I think that's good. That's really good.
Kathleen
Make my day.
finds that humorous too, Irene. She finds that when they're prizing his teeth out and then they can't prize Betty's out. But I think Philip's got a very good point there, because those aliens, Betty and Barney, that visited them, yes, they were evidently new to the human race. So it goes to show there may be multiple species. Or
maybe they were trainees on their first flight out.
Yeah, but certainly I know it was harrowing for Betty and Barney, that case. It was very harrowing for them. Of course it would be. But these, with one, seemed to be more darker. I just got the impression they were much darker. They weren't as, let's just say that in the case of Betty and Barney, I believe they used telepathy, but they spoke to her.
Yeah.
There was communication and there was some dialogue. But with these ones, it was a little bit more, I don't know, it was quite a bit more sinister. I just got that from watching it. I mean, people are entitled to their opinions, and when they watch it, they can develop their own thoughts or opinions on it. But I just felt it was quite dark.
Sorry, carry on.
Especially what he saw aboard the ship as well. I mean,
Yeah, and the destruction of the Earth.
Yes, I mean, now, is this going to come from an outside influence, or this is going to come from us? I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, when the shamans said that something dark's coming, not the aliens, I don't think it was the aliens, was it? It was the shamans saying
there was three shamans, weren't there? Yeah. 3 shamans that belonged to what are the name of these people? One moment. The Gorani community.
Yes. I mean, I have a feeling this is not from us. This is from something else. I mean, yes, we're destructive in ways. We're trying to get on. As a species, we are really, all of us are trying. It's just the plonkers in charge that make these stupid decisions. But we are trying. We're battling to survive as it is. But I think it might be something else. I think they're perhaps predicting an external influence. And you know what I mean by that? Either from interdimensional, a bad force, or could it be the war of demons and angels? We don't know. It could be that the old prophecy may come true. It just, as I said, raises so many questions, but they're very interesting. I don't think this is any time soon. I mean, people will say, "Oh, it's safe for him to say that," but it's quite true. I don't get the feeling it's going to be the next 50 years, perhaps 80 to 100, I don't know, but it's certainly, I feel something dark's going to come. Could it be a conception? Could it be something beautiful?
It could be what we're doing to the planet. You don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, what did you think of the fact that he saw his grandfather?
Yes. Now, that is very interesting. This is Philip, and I will tell you that moved me, because it just goes to show that these entities that obviously seem to evolve from light, because a lot of the UFO reports begin with lights being seen, and that we know that light carries information. And I know that certain scientists and scholars are working upon that premise of what the lights mean, the colors mean. So I believe that one was given a vision, and I believe that what happened to him was very true. And I also believe that this occurred on a very deep emotional soul level, because he had been very close to his grandfather, who he loved his grandfather, and he was very close to him, and he loved him. And I think that because one had been isolated for so many years, that the image of that haunted him, and his connection with the tribe of religious people, they helped him heal him and say to him, look, it's okay, because they understand that there is an afterlife, and that these beings obviously have the power or the ability to, allow the individual to have a small glimpse of that
interaction. Yeah. But the point is, though, he didn't remember this until after he'd been through hypnosis.
Yes, that's right. And I think a lot of the things with regards to abductions has this ability in what we call screen memories. And a lot of people have these. I know that, some people who've had abductions have been frightened by toys of gnomes, or there is, certain things that they react to. And I think on a deep subliminal level or a mental level that these images are able to be prized out under correct guidance. And it depends on the person who is performing the regression, because now that they have new techniques with regards to this, and I do believe that one had one of the top men helping him. Yes, yeah. Irene, I want to add to that. Now, I don't think when they showed him his grandfather, I don't think that was for... this is a personal view, you understand. I don't think that was for bonding or for emotional reconnection, because if it was, it wouldn't have been screened. I reckon that was strategic from the aliens' point of view. I don't know why. Certainly, perhaps a message in there when it was brought through. I don't know, because if it was for enlightenment, he would have remembered that. I'm sorry, he would have done, but he didn't. So was it something they strategically put in his head while they did something else to him? Do you see what I'm saying? We have to consider... Oh,
like a cover thing.
Yes, we have to consider all aspects. I mean, that's what we love doing. We can't just be tunnel vision. We've got to look at all the options available here.
Yeah, because he felt how he described it in the dream. If under hypnosis, was that this alien touched him on the arm, and he found himself floating up, and then there was his grandfather.
Yes, but the thing is, if it was for enlightenment, he would have remembered, or they wouldn't have blocked, or it wouldn't have been blocked. I don't think it would, because it would have, that I feel that was strategic for whatever reason. I don't know.
But then again, going back on an experience that I had, right? Could it been that I was in hospital once, okay? And I had to go on. I went under they put me out. They knocked me out. And I was sitting in the room I saw this white room. There was my father, my Auntie Lizzie, and my Auntie Hilda all sitting there talking to me. Now, my mind was gone because I was unconscious for the operation. Could they have knocked him out and then something similar to that just happened to him? His grandfather appeared into his unconscious mind?
Possible, isn't it? As I said, it's good to consider. It's not demeaning his message or his beliefs, but it's good that we consider every aspect of it. I'm open to all. I'm open to everything. I'm always, that's the one wonderful thing about us is, like yourselves and many other people, we're open to many suggestions, not tunnel visioned. I think it's important that we are. Yes, it's quite possible.
But that's why we're radio hosts.
Or he could have seen his grandfather. They may have reconnected him with his grandfather. You see, we just don't know, do we? I think it's Philip here. I think that for a 12-year-old child, that might have been something that would have taken him over the edge if he had remembered seeing his grandfather. What's interesting is that it's providential that many years later into his later life that he was able to recall these images. And as we all know, that things don't happen by chance, that they happen for reasons. And now that he's a grown man and he's been able to evolve within himself, it just seems ironic now that in this part of his life that he can actually awaken. Now that he's a grown man, he can think and feel and have his own set of beliefs that he's constructed within his mindset. It's possible that this was meant to happen, and that maybe the visitors foresaw this as an occurrence that would happen in his future. We just don't know. But a lot of times, the psychic element, obviously when people are in the presence of the visitors themselves, the psychic part seems to be blown wide open, because our normal programming from day to day and since birth has been shattered completely. And this is something I think one found quite shocking, and a lot of people find angry because a lot of abductees, the original genuine abductees, feel angry towards a system which just turns a blind eye. And all I can say is thank God for people like yourself and Alan and many other people who are, you know, forcibly trying to bring this to the public's attention.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, even Alan amazed me. You know, at 24 years old, he went off to see a shaman in, I can't remember where it is now. Knock my head on the wall. And asked 200 questions. He was 24-year-old boy, for God's sake. Now, I don't know about his mother, but she must have been worrying, because I would have done. My son is in Dusseldorf at the moment, and I'm panicking about him. And he's a lot older.
Yeah, I think that Alan, obviously, you know, there's again, we're all instruments, and we all have our purpose, and we all have our direction within life.
Yeah.
And obviously, to bring this to the attention of the public, as I said, going back, Alan comes across as a very highly evolved soul, and you know, his work and his you know, examining of this work is helping towards us to a greater understanding of what we are on a humane level, because he was very interested in the concept of life after death, of the survival of consciousness, of our beginnings, where it all began, about the genesis, and of course ancient alien theories. So, you know, he's obviously a guy who is a very old soul, and he certainly came across as someone who was very, very clued up, and not one, you know, to take anything lightly. But you could also see that he, within the film, was very empathic, and also in search of those answers that had also bugged him. And I feel that he probably felt that one would be able to deliver some of that, and I believe he got that.
Yeah, and he didn't go steaming in to one's house saying, okay, tell me about this, tell me about that. He stayed with him for a while and gradually brought it out of him slowly.
Yeah. That was lovely. I think, you know, some people, they bulldoze their way into a case, and I think you have to be careful because of the abductee or the experiencer, who themselves is in a very, very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
But you see, what was lovely was the build-up of that trust and that empathy. And I liked the way that Alan, when he was sitting with one and out in the dark before this all started coming out, and he said to him about, you know, the tractor, the spacecraft, as though innocently, not understanding of what he was saying, to try and prise in a very gentle way more of the story, and being very, very professional with the whole thing. So I thought that was beautiful, the way that he built that up very slowly to enable that trust between the two men to occur. And I also love Jack Valet. I think he's an amazing man.
He is. Yeah, he definitely is. And he was saying that you know, one was not the only one that week. Three other children, more in the inner city, I believe, more, you know, not out in the sticks, but 3 other children had experiences the same week.
Yeah, and it's like really incredible, and I think it's really nice that Dr. Jack Valet was involved in that case all those years ago, and it was lovely to see him reconnecting with an old friend, and you know,
one was really pleased to see him, wasn't it?
I thought that was wonderful, and you know, everyone within ufology has the greatest admiration and respect for Dr. Jack Valet, and he's very, very open-minded. He's you know, and his work is very brilliant. And, you know, the way that he was suggesting about the 5th dimension and how we observe things, I thought that was very beautiful and very endearing. And he is a very gentleman. I mean, he's no fool. He's a very clever man. I mean, he's a brilliant man. But he's very gentle with regards to the phenomenon himself. And he's a very gracious man, very kind man himself. So that was really lovely as well. And the other witnesses, I think that's important. But obviously, I think they were making emphasis to the fact that it didn't matter if there hadn't been any other witnesses, because of the testimony and the experiences that one had gone through. And with the other experiences that were mentioned within the program, it had also affected them. So we've got to look at their side as well, to the story of how that kind of, like, you know, how they dealt with that. Yes. I mean, Irene, I will also add that it's clear cut, isn't it, that disclosure on their behalf, the aliens or whatever they are, is not going to come, because logically speaking, looking at it from this point of view, they're like shadows. They seem to hide from people, although they select one or two. They're not disclosing themselves. They are always covert, or they try to be covert, bar from one or two witnessing them. All the
now you're talking about my world.
yeah, but it's actually quite true. I mean, a lot of what we hear is isolated cases.
Yeah.
They do not wish to, it seems to me, from a logical point of view, they don't want to be known by the masses, but they don't seem to mind snatching one or two people for them to tell the masses. Are they, if they are so smart of our history and knowing us very well, which they do, they know that it'll only be a handful that will bring this out. So they're evidently not interested in disclosure, not them themselves, but they're happy to interact with certain people. And as we said, I believe there was a reason for once, and I don't think we've had the full reason yet. I don't think it's just spiritual. I think there's something else behind that, you know, but that's an argument for another time. But certainly, logically put, this is not disclosure. It is certainly from one's point of view and the producer, but from their point of view, the aliens know, because they're like, it's like a game of cat and mouse. I said this all along with most of them. You know, they like teasing us and giving us little snippets, sometimes flashes of their faces or their technology or what they're doing, just flashes. And are we really seeing their true faces? You know, this is the thing, this is another question that pops up. As an example, the Greys, I mean, as I said before, then we had the Nordics and the fairies, and then we have the Greys. I mean, are they going to change their faces again? Are we seeing a piece of animated mythology? Are they really, truly masters of disguise? They're the true magicians, and we're just the people caught up in the spell? I don't know.
Are they us from the future?
Well, I don't think so. We've been talking about this. I don't think it is. I do not think that at all.
But
why on earth would we bother going back to see ourselves? You know,
well, maybe to learn lessons.
I don't know, because
maybe they're living in a world that's not like this. It's not beautiful and green. Maybe they're trying to stop any destruction that way.
It's possible, but personally, for myself,
maybe they are living underground because they can't live on top because there's nothing there anymore.
But I mean, I'm open to all suggestions, but personally, I don't believe they're from the future. I do believe they are external. They're from, as we said, interdimensional. I feel that we have to look on all sides. I'm open to the fact that this is Philip, but they are perhaps from the future. They could be demons, they could be interdimensionals, they could be from another planet. I think there's a lot of things going on with the phenomenon. And I think, as I said, again, it relies on a personal observation of that.
Sorry, when you talk demons, you don't talk you're not talking demons as in the biblical sense, are you?
Yeah, I am. I think too,
you are.
You know, because, you know, we've got to look at all sides to this, and you know, most people all, you know, put their hands up and say, oh, I don't believe that. Well, looking at all aspects is what's important. We have to look at all parts to this. We can't just segregate it into one unit. Yes. And I think that demons are no more fantastic than UFOs. No, that's right. You know, it makes me laugh when these religious people say, you know, the UFOs don't exist, but they believe in God, but they haven't seen God, but people have seen UFOs. This is absolutely, you know, the contradiction they make. And when and many others, if you tell them that you've seen a UFO, it's demons. So we're rattled with quite a complex puzzle here. And until we can put the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle to form a coherent picture, it's going to remain remain that way.
Right, now there's one other question I want to ask you, because we're running out of time. I know that. I've just heard Alexa go off. At the very beginning, Alan says, they come from another planet to conquer ours.
Yes.
That statement, and then what we saw afterwards, to me just didn't fit.
Well,
somehow.
I mean, as we said, as I did say they were benevolent in some ways, but in other ways, I've just got a dark picture from them, and he might well be quite true on that statement. That might well be true. Is this the darkness the shamans have seen? It's quite possible. We don't know. Are they planning something? Is this part of their agenda? We don't know. But
Maybe.
Interesting statement from him. Yes, I like that. Very interesting.
Okay. Right. So end up then. To me, it was brilliant that he did come to a closure. You know, he came to understand and he came to closure.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Alan Stivelman's done an absolute brilliant job on this documentary, and I hope it's very successful like his first one.
Yes. Yeah.
Mano, which was seen by over 3 million people in the cinemas in Latin America and places.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Wish him all the best of luck. Fantastic guy.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it, folks. Alan Stivelman was our guest tonight, and the second half of the show, we went into a discussion, which I enjoyed. I really did enjoy that discussion. Yeah. And thank you, Philip and Ronnie, for taking part.
And thank you, Irene, for allowing us to come on and to speaking with Alan. It was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, then. Right, everybody. So that's it for another week. We'll talk to you or see you again next week. Well, we won't see you, but you'll hear from us next week. And you can find us just about anywhere.